begin by saying that I'm the founder of Hexology. Hexology, central to that idea of Hexology is the idea that you have digital media online. And what we're trying to do, and what we are doing, is bringing that online content and putting it into the world. So it's around you, wherever you go. And if you can imagine that world, it might be that you come close to me, and by being near me, you can pick up my LinkedIn page, you can pick up, I may have created a video, which I've uploaded to Hexology, and Hexology is more than an app, it's a community, it's a movement. And sorry, I'm just gonna, okay, well that seems to be okay. It's a movement, and so bringing your online content and putting that into the real world around you enables people that are around me to discover and make connections, and then that brings communities together. It makes the world around me more interesting and more accessible. You can use it as an artist to say, hey, look, this is what I do. You might be a delicatessen owner and you're running an online shop and you're connecting with people. And so Hexology has been designed and is being built to empower people. And that's a story that I use to sell Hexology, but it's also a story that motivates me to do it. And how did I get there? So on today's roll call of speakers, it says film producer and founder, startup founder. So, and it's true, I come from a film background. Around 2002, I was working at the very highest end of the commercial film industry. And I moved up through post-production as a graphic artist, an online editor, and then became a writer, director. And the journey that I've made is what I think I want to talk about here now. Because that's nothing to do with me. Okay, so you know, I had developed as an artist, I had sharpened my skills in the digital film world. And so I was approached by a feature film company at the time that the feature film company was making the switch from film to digital film, to help them make a feature film. And so, and what happened was I spotted an opportunity to develop a camera, a new type of camera. And I won an innovation award, and I developed a prototype with this innovation award, and then a feature film company took an interest in it and invested some money into that project, and then I developed that technology further. And what I built was a system called Digimator, which I eventually, it's a camera that plugs directly into your computer. And the feature film company that were interested, they didn't make the film in the end, but what happened was that by word of mouth, Cosgrove Hall Films ended up making the Rupert the Bear TV series. And that experience of over a period of 3 years of creating a camera system, which it was really outside of my skill set. You know, I was really basically problem solving for a feature film. And I asked myself, how could I use this experience as a technology entrepreneur and bring that into something that is much more in line with who I am, which is a writer-director. And so I came up with Hexology. And through Hexology, people will be able to tell their story in the world around them. They will be able to create a pink bubble, an aura, and fill it with their digital content. And as they walk around the world, people will be able to pick up their stories just by being in proximity with each other. And developing this brand has been taxing. It's been a tricky business. It really, really has, because it was, you know, it's a storytelling. Is it IoT, Internet of Things? Is it augmented reality? Is it lots of things? And ultimately, at some point, I had to shape this down, refine it, and pick something and target something quite specific that people will understand. So there is a marketing journey, and in fact, the marketing innovation with Hexology has been the toughest challenge. Tougher than designing the app, tougher than recruiting the people, and tougher than, well, all other aspects of what you might consider the entrepreneur journey to be. Well, in my case, anyway. So, in this talk, we've talked about being a creative, we've talked about productivity, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about different things, and this is it, this is what I wanted to, there was something coming to the front of my mind all throughout this session, and it was when I pitched this to a venture capitalist, it happened in an hour. It was like the first, there was an email, I was introduced by a colleague to a venture capitalist called Bill Yao. He then wrote to me and said, what does it do? How will it make the world a better place? And I wrote a paragraph, and it was so succinct. I thank, that moment for being clear-minded enough to seize my opportunity. And I wrote something so succinct that actually the connection, the vision that I had connected with Bill, and he came on board and he's been mentoring me ever since. And that's it in a nutshell, which is, if you're going to create a business, it's why, which is what everyone's kind of at a bottom level. It's always, why are you doing it? Because that's what people will buy into. That's what they'll invest in. They'll go on that journey with you and make whatever it is that you're doing succeed. And finding the why isn't always strictly obvious. You might come at it from, hey, look, this is my functional form. My functional form is Hexology. It's an app that puts information in the world, and and that's a kind of a why, I guess, because you're then helping people. But there's a deeper level of information that you need to connect to in order for a brand to get the level of authenticity that people need to hear, but also for investors to believe in, because investors believe in the brand, the performance of the company, but also the founding vision and the founders that underpin that vision. And so I know that I've run out of time.
We can go for another 5 minutes. We said we could extend this.
Okay. And so we're at a point now where we're about to launch a Kickstarter campaign page. And I come from a background of big film cameras, lots of equipment, lots of lights, computers, and budgets and commercial advertising agencies kind of like defining what projects we make. And this is our campaign film, which I shot on an iPhone. And it's a completely different approach to filming. And Gavin was talking about seeing a problem and hacking a solution to it. And I think that the entrepreneur's journey is that. It is literally saying, I have a set of goals which ties in with the productivity design of what are your goals and how can you get there and how do you solve them, and carry yourself along that journey, or take yourself and the team of people and the company that you're building, how do you get that to surface? And shooting with an iPhone was a tremendous exercise in actually stretching what I would normally do. You know, working with a very limited tool, which is actually, well, it's not that limited in fact, but you know, it's not got interchangeable lenses, I haven't got big flash drives to move my data around, it's, you know, and so it's, and as a metaphor for what entrepreneurs do, it's a really good one, because it says, not only do you be ambitious with your goals, but also stretch yourself in the way that you solve, the way that you approach reaching those goals. And this is a kind of a set of, you know, my journey as a filmmaker, and then as a writer-director, and then as a technology entrepreneur, and now as a founder working in an environment where, you know, I'm at a level where I'm working with venture capitalists. It's the thing that's got me there is believing in what I'm doing, believing in something that people will need and want and will improve the world, and then being committed to it, because the last thing that you want to do is invest all your life into building something and it being suddenly not what you wanted it to be, and then having a disconnection with it. So if you're going to build something, be close to it and let it be real and mean something to you, because the work that you'll put in will be a lot, and so you want to make it count. I think I'll end it there, but if there's anyone that wants to ask me anything, now would be a good time.
What inspired as in the actual concept of the app? Because it's quite complex but kind of ingenious. Was it that you were having trouble getting your products out or to the right places?
So basically, Hexology originated out of a plan of action that I wanted to build an immersive fiction in the world. I'm working towards telling an immersive story. So you go out in the world and you pick up a piece of content that is suddenly fictionalized, and all of a sudden you're into another level of storytelling which you can connect to with film. And so this was my big, broad canvas. Yeah? And I didn't have all the answers. I had feelings towards something, and I knew that I have enough experience to know that there is a process which, if you work through, it deliver results. Yeah? So I was basically looking for a solution to be able to put digital media content into objects, into spaces and places, and it occurred to me that that would be incredibly powerful for everybody. would help museums. Imagine turning up at a museum and getting their story at the foyer, or going to a theatre and picking up information about the gig you're going to see at the night, or maybe a delicatessen wants to provenance food or that they sell, or maybe an artist wants to, a street performer wants to connect people to their fan page. You know? All these people, you know, independent, and then, so I thought, well, I could snap Hexology out of my own personal vision and make it accessible to everybody. And it was actually, the company, Hexology is a trade name, and the real name of the company is EOID, which was just my starting point. It shows what the journey that you make. Hex it's like digital magic. It's you putting magic into the world. And so I was looking for words, like I was thinking maybe like stone gems for the name, or I was thinking, a wand. How could you put that? And I thought, well, you could hex it. And then I thought, well, hex is negative. So it's a bit like a spell. Yeah. And then I thought, well, actually, do you know what? People get over that, in a heartbeat. So, and then hex, and then hexology, and hexology really captures the imagination of people, of this kind of ology, technology, or study of hexing, of hex. How did you do that? I hexed it, and bringing what you do into a vernacular so that people can turn it into a verb. Oh, I hexed it. That's a really powerful way to transmit your message from person to person.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
We are inundated. I mean, we've all touched on it, I think, to one level or another. We're inundated with content these days, whether it's through social media channels, the blogs you read, the news, all the different sources of content. And we're all creating content regularly. Because you're talking about you're going out into the world and you're getting lots of different bits of information, and obviously you're choosing to get certain information, whether it's the deli or whether it's the theatre and the info on the gig or whatever it is. How do you foresee, if you're wearing your hex and you're connecting with all these other people, how easy is it going to be to actually curate all of that information? Because otherwise you could be sitting there for hours, potentially flipping through everything and trying to get your head around the enormous amount of content you've kind of connected with.
Well, that's a
great
problem.
So how do you foresee that?
That's a good problem.
How do you manage that? Because that could also, to play devil's advocate for a minute, I'm sure you've probably answered this question before, it's so difficult to curate your own content these days in terms of what you want to access and where you want to access it and how you want to, and we're just missing loads of stuff. So how will we as individuals using Hexology be able to sift and filter through all of that so that it's not completely all time consuming and absorbing?
Well, in the first instance, Hexology is all about being local. It's about hyper-local content that exists in my vicinity, in proximity of me. So the app gives you a maps page that says what's around me, and in the sense, Hexology is a micro-blogging app. It's you can put deep pieces into it, but it's unlikely people will do that. It's more likely that people will signpost content to online content. So I may be walking down the street and I pick up bits of information, and if there comes a time when you're literally walking down the street and there's bing, 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 it's just pouring in like that, that's a great problem to face. And what we would do in that instance is through a sense of autonomy, be able to set up filters and say, hey, look, these are my interests. What kind of visit are you here on? Oh, well, I'm travelling and I'm sightseeing, and then people would basically keyword their content or tag their content, so then it comes in to people that are on that kind of mission. I'm on a mission, I'm on a shopping mission, so shopping information will come in. Or
okay, so it can help you also.
It can help, but we're not at that stage yet.
Okay. But that's what you foresee for it.
That's what we see, yeah. Great. We see it. I mean, the app's really quite, advanced in terms of you can create a channel and drive people to that channel, so then you get a chance to build your own brand inside Hexology. So those we've addressed it rather from the other side of the equation, which is how do we get to the point in which you are talking about? How do we get from ground zero up to where I'm walking down the street and I've got ping, 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 and then at that point, then you kind of go the other way, which is then you start to kind of like to make selections about refining the content that comes to you. But one of the things that we use is a term that I'm sure you're familiar with, user-centered design, is it's iterative. So the app or the technology that you build needs to evolve around your user base. So I know Gavin. Gavin tells me how he would use it, how he would use Hexology, and I just love the way that's an immensely great use case. And someone else might use it quite differently. So what features do I build? Do I build Hexology for people like Gavin? Or do I build Hexology for people who, like the gentleman who's just left, who you previous speaker, the productivity guy? Do I build for him? And so finding your audience and developing your brand around your audience and building that connection, deepening the relationship with your audience, really big part of that journey. And there's no prescription. All there are which is, you hack solutions around the problems that you face, and you try to generate really meaningful and authentic concepts and try to get them out. Try to get those ideas out so people can hear them. Because it's by people jumping on board that, that's where it really happens. It's a guy at a festival who dances in a very weird, strange way. Have you seen it? Right. He's and he's a complete crazy man. And then someone starts dancing with him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You've seen it? Yeah. And one by one, until eventually there's a watershed moment, and then hundreds of people, and it all happens within 2 minutes, or something like that, a minute and a half. And it really is an incredible illustration of how something can launch, how something can go from you doing something that you believe in to actually making a difference in the world.
It's like the 100 followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first 100 followers, something like that.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. I've got it on my laptop. I'll stick it up at the back. It's worth a watch. Very entertaining. And the guy that narrates it does a brilliant job at just drawing out the psychology that people think, what the original dancer was thinking and what everyone else was thinking at the time, and actually how it unfolds in a very human way. Any other questions, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Darrel.
Thank you.